Welcome to the Soul Revolution Tribe podcast, where we share stories, laughs, and even a few tears, but always a good time. We are about depth and real raw sharing through soul conversations and medicine. We are learning to find ourselves again and to be an unstoppable force of nature, ready to break down the constructs and rebuild them with love and acceptance at its core. We are the new world. Welcome back to another episode of the Soul Revolution Tribe. Today, first let's start out. I'm Jackie B. I'm your host, Shamanic Soul Guide and Remembrance Facilitator. And today, as you can tell, I'm excited. I have my dear friend and powerhouse, Glenda Jones, with us. She is the owner of GJSweets LLC. She is all about food, fun, fascia, and freedom. She provides the sweet experiences in whatever she's creating. Her business has 3 branches. The first one is Sweet Health. This is where she has her kitchen coaching, personal chef, and functional nutrition counseling. And she also brings in certifications of TRE, which is tension, trauma, release exercises, and fascia maneuvers through Human Garage. Her second branch is Queen BU. This is where she has her motivational speaking. She is an author, and her mentorship, sorry, can't speak today, of really the message of taking you from me to we, and we can talk about that. So we as in WEE, Women Encouraging Encounters. And then the third branch is Sweet Food Safety, which is all about hosting and teaching courses of safe service for food and alcohol. And Glenda is here to bring you to the healthiest life and the best eating possible. I'm so happy and so honored to have her here with us today. And let's get started by talking about what is food, fun, and fascia and freedom to you, Glenda?
Ooh, food, fun, fashion, and freedom. Okay, I'd say when I say food, I'm all about food. I'm all about everything that tastes good and that is good for you and your body with food. So I'd say there's freedom in food. In that just because we say healthy doesn't mean salad or tree or grass or anything that's just not good. Healthy food is good to you as well as good for you. So I'd say for me, having a lot of allergies in the past and working through that is coming out of food jail and being free in my food choices and not having to worry about how my body's being affected, but knowing that it's affecting everything well. So I'd say that. And then food, fun, freedom, fascia. I mean, these are all the great F's that help us to be free in who we are. So then the next one, we said food would be fun, giving ourselves permission to have fun, permission to be who you are, permission to be okay in that and to be good in that, permission to just be, if nothing else. And fascia, I'm learning through Human Garage so much about fascia and how fascia holds emotions, how fascia can be released to release all those old habits and old things that are in our body and improve even the mobility and the function of our body. So that's about movement. That's about release. And then freedom. Well, freedom connects and sews into everything. It's a patchwork. It's everything. And that's just about being free to be who you are, however you want to do it, wherever you want to do it, and free to be you.
Yes.
Bottom line, free to be you.
And then that's what I'm all about too. So that's why we mesh so well.
Yes.
We have a very similar passion. As we go through and I'm reading your bio, something that comes to mind that a lot of people might not know about is that TRE certification, because I know I asked you more details about that. So the tension, trauma, release exercises. Just for somebody that doesn't know, do you want to kind of explain what that is and how that ties in perfectly with the fascia maneuvers and why it's that part? Because I think that's important that it's part of that sweet health aspect of your business.
Okay, TRE certification is trauma release, trauma and tension release and exercises. And David Berselli is the one who started that. And basically, if you're looking at the wild, out in the jungle or somewhere, and you have in my imagination, I would have a zebra. And I've seen this multiple times where you have the zebra and the zebra gets away from the herd and a lion comes chasing the zebra and the zebra's scared for his life and he's in panic and he's running around. Well, something happens and the lion misses the zebra and the zebra gets away. Well, when the zebra comes back to the herd, he shivers and he shakes and he tremors. And it's like he's releasing the stress. And then he goes back to grazing with everybody else, like nothing ever happened. So basically, he's not in fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. He's out of it. It's a natural mechanism that the body has capability of doing to help us just to release all of those things and to be okay. And with that, that's going to help the digestion when it talks about food. It's going to help you to be able to eat and help you to be able to break down your food and digest. And the body heals when you're not in fight or flight, when you're in rest and digest. Also, trade intertwines with the fun part. If you're scared and nervous and in fight or flight and worried about everything and Chicken Little, the sky's falling or whatever, running around doing all that, you cannot rest and digest. You can't rest and be in the moment and enjoy and have fun. So it plays into that. And fascia is it's like a coin to me, a two-sided coin. They go together. Absolutely. When you're talking fascia release with Human Garage and then Trey, it's just another mechanism to get to the same result. And freedom, with Trey, you become so relaxed and so free. And all you're doing is just doing nothing, just lying there, allowing your body, giving your body permission to let go of all of this stuff. And I'm in the process of completing that, but Trey it's really amazing. The first experience that I had, and I'm going, am I doing this? No, my body's shaking like that zebra. Yep. It's just trembling. Or like a dog on 4th of July, it's shaking, trembling. And when it's over, then they go on and start eating or whatever.
Yeah, to be able to that reset. Like that's what we were talking about before. There's many pathways to hit that reset. And I have people who have that same shake. I call it trauma release in other modalities that I have too, but it sounds like a beautiful pathway, and the marriage of that and fascia maneuvers and all of it, just your purpose lines up so beautifully. So I just love that. And I wanted people to understand that there is another modality too. And we're not cookie cutter beings. So that's why I love bringing more of these different medicines in, because we may not resonate with one way and we might not feel safe in it. So maybe somebody doesn't feel safe doing breath work yet. They're not to that point yet, but maybe they'd be open to just doing the tray process and being able to be present in that moment and allowing things to move that way. It's beautiful. However you get to the conclusion, like that's what lights my heart up. I don't care what pathway you take to get there, as long as you're letting your soul lead and really allowing yourself to connect to all of your being. So let the soul lead, let the body guide, and let the mind align in that order.
And that's why I love Trey, because David Berselli actually has gone out and created a lot of programs and used this modality with a lot of military soldiers and the trauma that they've experienced. And it's not necessarily that they got to talk through anything. It's not that they even have to do anything. Your body, it's just lying there and doing some stretches and exercises just for a few minutes, and then just lying on a surface and allowing your body just to do what it does, and just shifting and making it happen. It's easy. I don't have to be afraid that my body, of whatever the environment is, or being afraid that I can't stretch or I can't move this way. It's gonna help. And
it helps you bring presence to the moment. That's what I like as you're sharing it, like really allowing yourself to be in your body. And a lot of the times I found in my practice, like we can get to the acceptance of the mind. We can have the mind aligned, but if we don't move that energy through our body, it will still stay there. You have to have all the components. And so it sounds like Trey is the perfect thing, is like you can complement it with like talk therapy or something else where you can process it through the mind, but that part is really the Trey is moving it from the body.
Exactly. That's exactly what it's doing. It's moving it from the body and just allowing it to work. So it's just a different thing that works well.
I love it. I love all that you're about. Like we talk every day, like all day, about all different things, and it's just so beautiful. I also wanted to touch on the fact that you were an author, and you are we talk regularly, so I know that you're in the process of birthing a new book as well, but she does have a book. If you want to talk a little bit about that and maybe the process that we're going through for you stepping into that next book.
Okay. The title of my book is God Speaks in the Kitchen. And the kitchen has been my happy space since I was about, I don't know, the 8 years old was the number that I remember. Growing up in South Alabama, standing under my grandmother, who, you know, kind of was a TV grandma in my mind. And in that, in my culture, she's the grandma, and every Sunday you go to grandma's house. She's going to have all this meal laid out. If it's somebody's birthday, we had a birthday party every month because somebody in the family had a birthday. I don't know who it was, didn't matter. It was any excuse to connect. It was a family connecting. The family connected around food. And my grandmother, who's 92 still today, fascinated me in that she brought us together. It was a love language for her. And so I started walking around following her and looking at what she did and being very interested in how to cook and how she did that. So cooking became what I do. So for me to get to the place of writing this book, it was a 7-year journey. The idea came to me right after our house was hit in the 2011 tornadoes. And we lost 90% of everything. And we left my home and was in what I call the dungeon of an apartment down on the basement floor. And I can just remember thinking, oh, this is crazy. And for years, this idea of writing this book had been in my mind. But it was that day after that experience that I knew I had to write the book. And there was a local health food store here in my area, and they hired me. I was friends with the owner, and she says, hey, can you help me? I have these products I want to sell at my store. Can you help me sell them? Cooking demos. And I'm like, okay. So, it was like a kid at a candy store. I could go in this health food store, and you mean I could pick anything off the shelf to cook with? Things I never heard of, all kinds of craziness. And she'd say, today we want to sell, I don't know, it could be pecans one day. And so make something. Oh yeah, I make a pie. And I get to go around the store and I start talking. Okay, what can I do? How can I do this? And I could hear, use this, use that, grab this, grab that. And then I go upstairs to the kitchen and I bake it. And as things are baking, people coming in the store, they're smelling it. And then I bring it down and I just start serving and talking to people. And we'd sell whatever product they wanted. And it just became an exercise where God started speaking to me the first time that I literally heard the Spirit's voice in my head saying, do this, do that. And that's because God spoke to me in my passion. Mm-hmm. And at that point, my passion was cooking, just pretty much creating. And just, it was amazing how each time I would just know what to do on things that I had never even tried. And then I'd write a recipe on the spot, type it up, print it, give it out, and sell the food. And it was just such a really cool experience. And then one day doing that, on the pecan day, let's get back to that story. So on the pecan day, I'm making the pecan pie. And I'm like, oh, I've done that many times. So I don't pause. I don't sit still. I don't ask the questions to hear the answers. I'm going from old patterns and memory of what I've done before. And I make the pie, get it in the oven. It looks perfect. And as soon as I put it in the oven, I hear, you missed something. And I'm talking out loud now going, what? I missed something? And I'm going through everything in my head. I did miss something. I missed one of the main ingredients. And I baked that pie, it'd have been a flop. And I never flopped anything at that point. And I'm like, okay. So I was able to take the pie out, add the other ingredient, put it in, pie. So all of their pie crust and their pecans, it went exceptionally well. But it was at that point that I realized that I was just not going through the motion. I literally was hearing God's voice speaking to me, telling me what to do and how to move in this kitchen space. So after the whole
story so much, just because you were trying to go into letting the mind lead, and then it goes, nope, I'm letting you do it. I'm not going to tell you what to do. But you forgot something. I just love that. Okay, sorry, keep going.
It was just crazy because I'm like, I forgot something? What? And I was like, oh my gosh, I did. And so after the tornado, I lost my motivation to cook, which was something I did for everybody all the time. Because at this point, I'm in a beige apartment. There's no color. I don't have any of my toys because all of that was gone. And I'm going, I'm not cooking anything. I'm done. You know, little kid, fold your hands and pout. And then a friend of mine came from out of town and she just started talking to me about, remember you said you thought about this book, and I started thinking about that book. So then she bought me a gift, which for me was some kind of kitchen gadget. You know, I like kitchen gadgets. And I was like, oh, wow. And in my mind, oh, you could do this with this and you could do that with this. And it's like, okay. And so I realized that was the moment, the downtime in the kitchen for me to literally write this book, because it had been in my mind. And I just started thinking about it. So from 2011 until about 2018, year 7. And I recognize that there's a valid point in that number 7. And I went, wait a minute, number 7, I got to complete this. I cannot go into year 8 and this is not complete. So from 2018 to 2019, I wrote that book in 1 year and published it in that 1 year, because I was determined to get it.
Because that 7 is linked to that spirituality, that intuition, which is exactly what that book was about, is really tapping into your own intuition and connection with your creator and being able to hear that voice and respond and be in relationship versus the automatic motions of life that a lot of us run through. Like we were saying earlier, it's that fight or flight, really survival mode. And this book is bringing you back into that, like, actually what living is supposed to be like.
Exactly, because the main theme of the book, is definitely food, because everything I do has food in it. But it was about freedom to step away from another F that was controlling me, and that's fear. Mm-hmm. And the thought came to me, and I'm gonna say came, I heard the creator say that I needed to face some of those things that I was very fearful of. Mm-hmm. So I write different inspirational points in this book. It's also a cookbook, but it's also an inspirational book. So anybody's going to get something out of this book. You're feeding the body and the soul. That's the description that is actually on the front of my book. And I decided I was afraid of several things. I was afraid of heights. So I decided, okay, I'm giving myself permission. I'm giving myself the freedom to move anyway. Be afraid and do it anyway. So my son had a camp that we went to that year, and they did zip lining. And I knew I'm afraid of heights. So I decided I'm going to do this. I'm going to zip line. And it was at midnight, of all things, in the night. I'm going to zip line at night. Me, scared of heights. Me, climbing up on a ladder. Me, crossing a log. Me, jumping off the log. But I'm going to do this. So much so that I made the people that were putting on the equipment, I made them check it probably about 7 times. And then I would tell them each time, well, you know, I'm really afraid to do this. And they go, okay. I said, you know, I'm really, really scared, but I'm going to do it. And they go, okay, all right. And I said it so much that I had an audience when I did it, because I kept going, I'm really, really scared. And for me, that was huge, because I lived a life of not expressing my feelings, not knowing how to express what I was feeling, not knowing the words, and definitely not sharing it. So it was me saying it out loud, I am scared, but I'm doing it. So I climbed up there, and I'm going, oh God, help me. And I walk across the log, and I get to the base where the guy standing there, he's okay, now just jump. And I stand there and I don't move. And I'm like, okay, you're doing this. And I looked at him, I said, you know, can I sit down and just jump off that way? He said, sure. So for me, it was a lesson that it doesn't have to be the way everybody else did it. Yes. And sometimes you have to figure out the best way that you can get to the results of where you want to be. So instead of standing and literally jumping, I sat down, which brought me to a place of being more connected and closer to myself and feeling a little warm. And I just jumped off with my eyes closed, screaming. And then I kept hearing, open your eyes, open your eyes. And finally, I opened my eyes and I looked, and the beautiful scene, the stars looked like I could touch them. So then I went from crying to laughing. And they're all listening to me, because you sure can't see me, because I'm going way miles down in the dark. And I am just laughing because it was a full moon. It was a moon, looked like I could touch it. The stars looked like I could just reach out and just grab them. And I come back and I'm just laughing, and they all, yay, you know. And they go, okay, would you do that again? I'm like, yeah. And it was like the thing that I've been so afraid of all my life really was one of the things I enjoyed the most.
And brings you that fun and freedom.
It was fun. It was freedom. I literally felt free just to fly through the sky at night. Just like, it was really cool. So then later I got tested on it because we were in Atlanta on a family reunion trip, and there was a skyline to go across this whole I can't remember the mountain in Atlanta, whatever it is, you go across this thing. And I'm like, okay, I was not afraid. I stood up looking out. I'm going, wow, who am I? Wow, this is so cool. So it was just chasing those things that I was afraid of and writing about it and comparing and connecting it to food and seeing that it made a difference. And one of those things was um, the morning food, the breakfast area where I talked about different breakfast food. For me, that was a point of connecting to the source, plugging into the power source that feeds me, that allows me to move. And when I'm plugged in, then I function better. When I feed my body what I need in the morning to gas it up, the right food, then I function better. I mean, my theory is you wouldn't put diesel on a gas running vehicle with you. So why do we dump all this junk into our bodies and expecting it to run like a Cadillac? It won't. And true story, I actually put diesel in a car one time years ago when I first started driving. Well, it didn't ride. So that's a whole nother story. But
So really understood the message behind that statement.
I really had a real life message. And I was afraid of swimming, afraid of the water. I made sure that all my children knew how to swim because I always had this fear if something happened, I wouldn't be able to save them. So I needed them to be able to swim. But I myself never took on the challenge. So in my book, I write about that year, I decided to take swimming lessons. And I did. And I swam and jumped off into the deep end. A whole scared the whole time, yelling at the teacher the whole time. And he'd tell me to float, and I said, okay, I'm gonna do this, but I'm really scared. You know how scared I am? Okay, but I'm gonna do it anyway. And I did it. And that day I floated for the first time and just let go. And I'm looking at the ceiling of this gymnasium, this aquarium where the water was, and I'm just thinking in this pool, this is what it's like. It's about letting go.
Mm-hmm.
When I let go, I don't have to worry about how I'm going to be carried to wherever I'm going. I can just allow it to carry me and just float on. So that was a cool experience too.
I also like the fact that you just said, so you're deathly afraid of water, and that was one of your fears. Well, water is emotion. And so through this whole experience, you're saying how you never expressed your emotions. So you were afraid of your emotions, just like you were afraid of the water. And in these healing processes, you are allowing yourself to express the feeling. And we were talking earlier how no one taught us how to express feelings.
No one taught me.
They say feel the feelings, but no one actually explains how you're supposed to feel it. What does that look like? Okay, I think I'm feeling the feelings, but we don't even know until we actually experience it. And we're like, oh, that's surrender, and actually stop trying to control said feeling.
Mm-hmm.
Just allow it to be and move through you and build up. And literally it's you have to surrender control to really ride the wave of a feeling. And so I just loved as you were saying that, like, that's what was coming to me, like you're overcoming not only your fear of water, but your fear of feeling and expressing said feelings.
And I didn't know that. Now, even looking back, and if I open my book and I read it, I'm getting even messages that I didn't even get then, that I didn't know. That was the beginning. And now I moved on a few chapters in my own story that I can understand why I started that journey and what it was. I didn't realize that that had anything to do with my feelings, but I can sit here and tell you, and I even wrote about that's what was going on. But I didn't connect in my mind that, oh, wow, I really was dealing with emotions. And that's true, I was, because it's just story after story. That's where I'm walking through, trying to figure out how to get better, realizing that I refuse to live life anymore on the terms that I've lived it. I will do different. I will not be afraid to live. I will figure it out. And the only way to do it is just to take one step in front of the other, baby steps.
Absolutely. It's walking through the shadow. You've walked through the shadow, and now that you've stepped into your light, you're like, I'm not going back.
I'm
Like
not going
I
back.
can't go back. How do you unsee something that you've seen?
How do I unsee the beautiful stars in the sky at night? Because I thought it was so dark I couldn't see that I'm afraid of what it is. How do I unsee that? I can't. I won't.
And you
Who
don't
wants
want
to?
to. Yeah,
Who wants to?
exactly.
And why? Because now it was the beginning. As you say, light your way. I felt like I'm in the dark and now there is a flicker of light.
Mhm.
And now I'm moving on into the next phase of what I'm doing, I guess. It's the light is becoming brighter.
Mhm.
And that's where my next book comes in.
And I am so excited. We've been talking about the backgrounds, and if you feel comfortable, you can drop some drops on that. But I love how you said that too, because if you listen to the previous episode of episode 1 of this season, I talk about Light Your Way. So when she says Light Your Way, that's the one of my core programs. And in that episode, I talk about how you said now you're brighter. Well, in that path of walking through the shadows, you are reclaiming part of yourself, and you remember that I'm the light the whole time, and I've locked away parts of my light. So that's how we light the way, is every time we face a fear or a part of us and we dust it off and we clean it off and realize how beautiful it actually is, it's like, oh, I can take that light that I locked away and bring it back to me. So now my little tiny candle is becoming a big candle and becoming a lantern until eventually you're a freaking lighthouse beaming the way. That's what it's all
Exactly.
about. I just love that.
Exactly. I don't think I saw it then. Well, my second project that I am currently in the middle of trying to, no, correction. My second project that I'm currently in the middle of doing is it's Queen Bee You. And it's a Shiro's journey. And basically, when I got married, and I've been married for 30 years, love my husband dearly. But when I got married 30 years ago, my mother said to me, she says, baby, don't lose yourself. And I'm looking at her going, huh? Okay, whatever. I didn't know what she meant. And she didn't give me any explanation as to what she meant. And it wasn't until one day I woke up and I felt so lost. Who are you? What do you even like? Who are you? And that's because I gave all of me away. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. But when I gave me away so much, it was the detriment of myself, that I poured from my pitcher so much that there was nothing in it. I'm trying to pour from something and it's empty. Well, it doesn't work that way. In order to pour something out, you have to put something in, and nothing was in. And I think it wasn't until I woke up feeling lost that the thought of what she said to me, I understood what she meant. And for me, and this journey and writing this book, is to be that explanation for other women. For the younger women, I want to go, hey girl, let me show you how not to do that. I want to explain. You don't have to lose yourself. Let me tell you why. Because yeah, you're going to have a husband. Yeah, you're going to have children. Yeah, you may have all this stuff, but make sure you're taking time for you. Loving you will all ultimately help you love them better.
Absolutely.
And then for the women that are my age, I want to say, girl, I get it. I'm standing right here with you. I'm holding space for you. I understand this journey is tough. I'm right here with you. So let me tell you what I'm doing to help me to pull myself together, to choose to move forward and enjoy life right where I am, even though I felt lost, to put that mirror and to see who I am, what I like, how I want to move, because I still have life to live. And then for the women that are older than me, I want to say, baby, it's never too late. I get you. I'm standing just a couple of days behind you, but I get it. And it's never too late. Because as long as there's breath, there's life. As long as there's life, there's hope. And we can still do that. But we have to look inward to be able to move outward. Be able to step forward. We got to stop and look at where we're standing in order to know which way to move and which direction to go. And that's the whole premise of this book. And it's very unique and different because this book, when I say Queen Bee, it's about insects in a sense. So I've kind of likened different personas and personalities to different bugs and insects. And there's a whole lot of stories to that. But there's this bug, and she's on this journey, this Route 66 journey. And as she's going through this map and this journey, she gets on the struggle bus, which she thinks is horrible. Life is bad, and she's not knowing where to go. And she's stopping at these different destinations as she's traveling through life. And the whole point is we learn that life is not a destination; it is a journey. And she has to learn that. And she really doesn't know who she is, and she doesn't know where her place is. But as she travels on, she gets to understand that she is the queen. She's a bee, a bee. But not only is she's not just any old bee, she's the queen bee. Without her, there is
No colony.
no colony. She is the queen. She is the reason that all these other bees exist. And so she starts to own her power and own who she is, and starts to walk in that as she walks through this journey of life. But it reminds me of women. We so many times don't know who we are. There's a mistaken identity. I used to say that I was a chameleon. I could become whomever I needed to be wherever I was and fit right in. And I thought, oh, that was a horrible thing. But there's a gift in that. Yeah, there's a gift in that too. But even in that, do I know who I am? Do I know where I am? And do I know where I'm going, or where I even desire to go? So it looks like it's going to be a series, as well as some journaling and journal prompts and adult coloring books and all kinds of things as you color your way back to life, as you draw and design your own map or journal or
experience.
66 place in life as you be. And when I say be, at that point, Queen Bee had to learn to just be a bee, to be. So Queen Bee had to learn to be. So in order to become whatever it is that I need to become, I must be. So that's kind of the premises of that. It's in the makings, and it's definitely in the makings, and definitely a journey, because it's my journey. And it's been mine, and that experience has definitely been mine. One that's been very interesting, but pretty amazing, I'd have to say.
Absolutely. Did I or did I not say she was a powerhouse, everyone? Like, I'm not kidding. She is a walking, beautiful example of life. And that's what these beautiful books are about, is like her experience. It's not just a story. It's like a full expression of her. And she's a mirror for everyone else. We can relate in all these different areas. And that's the potency that we carry. That's the soul medicine. When I talk about turning our wounds into soul medicine, that's what I mean, is we take these experiences that we took as negatives, quote unquote, and we get to turn them. We have the power. We can give our power away to the situation, or we can reclaim our power and say, okay, I see the lesson in that. I acknowledge it didn't feel good at the time. I feel the pain. I feel that. But once again, I can continue suffering, or I can use it to actually alchemize into something beautiful, which empowers me to walk forward. I take that and turn it into my own medicine, which then I can share that medicine with other people. And that medicine is actually catalyzing their own medicine. That's the beautiful journey we're talking about. That is what we're here to do. It's not the age of the guru anymore. There is nobody that's an expert of your life versus you. We are all here in collaboration to build together, to grow together, because the queen bee couldn't be the queen bee by herself. She needs the other people in the same way as they couldn't be in their role without her. And I think that's the journey we're also learning, is we all belong, all of us belongs together with us, just like we belong here in the earth too with other people. And I think that that's maybe the healing journey that we're going on, because as we say, like, as within, so without. And how I just talked about in the last episode is when we desire change, it starts with us. We have to be the change that we desire. So we get to lean into that and say, okay, so If I'm seeing a world full of hate, separation, and that's the lens I'm seeing, then how do I get to go turn in and say, how am I mirroring that to myself in the inside? Where am I separating myself? What parts of me am I hating? And where do I get to be the bridge and be that unconditional love and come back into connection and relationship so I can heal from the inside? And then I can mirror that outside. And then my whole reality shifts, not because I do, but because I be.
Exactly. I think one of the quotes, that one of the greatest quotes for me that I read one time, and I want to think it was by Joe Dispenza, but I'm really not sure who said it. When he said the pain of staying the same is greater than the pain itself, that's when I'll move.
Yes.
And for me, just sitting there going, so many of us are hurting right where we are. But when the pain of staying the same is greater than the pain itself, if I have to do this one more time, if I have to walk the same way one more time, one more day of life looking just like it is, I can't. So then when that motivation becomes greater than the actual pain that I'm in, then I'm motivated to move and to figure that out. And that may mean just moving your eyelid or just a toe, but it's a movement. It's a movement towards something better, something more powerful for yourself.
And just the emotion itself is movement. That's energy in motion. So in
Exactly.
order to move, actual move, we have to feel. We have to have an emotion inside of us to move us forward. And that, I think, is the key point to start with, is going through there and realizing that we have to remember how to feel again. We have to be able to move through. Not we have to, we get to, because we get to live a quality life. We get to live in abundance.
It's one decision at a time, one thought.
Yeah, don't overwhelm. And I think a lot of the time we miss the mark is because we're living so far in the future of what we don't have, and that's our focus. Well, where our focus goes, our energy flows. So instead, let's bridge that gap. Okay, so this is where we desire to be. Let's focus on the desire piece, not what we're missing, but here's the desire. Here's where I'm at. Like, okay, so here's where I'm at. I see the disconnect, but that's okay, because now we're going to build the bridge knowing we have to know A to B to build the bridge, right? We can't know where we're going, and we can't know if we don't know where we are, we can't build the bridge to start either. Otherwise we're missing the mark. We're building a bridge like in the middle land. Like, well, that's what I visually see is like, okay, so we are trained and coached into, what do you want? What do you want? What do you do? It visualize it so we can manifest it. You have to have a picture. Okay, so yeah, we get that picture, but the problem is we're sometimes so afraid to admit and be radically honest with ourselves of where we're at. So I almost see like, okay, we have one cliff here, one cliff here. We have our point B that we want to get to. We're starting to get clear on that now. We're building the bridge, but we're only going halfway because we aren't doing the inner work to figure out where I'm at.
Right.
To be able to build the rest of the bridge. And then it's just having the courage and the faith and the trust to start walking across it, because it's there. A lot of the times we realize we actually built the bridge already, but we have to get the courage and the confidence and the self-trust in our own being that we can make it across.
Exactly. And when we make it there, we don't have to wait to the end of the journey to put on our crown.
Yes.
We don't have to wait till we get to the castle, sitting on the throne, to wear our crown or to straighten our crown and to put on our robe and our jewels or whatever that the queen wears. The queen is the queen, regardless of whether she's in her crown or not. So it's about becoming and being that queen now.
Absolutely.
Owning my own power.
Yeah, embracing your essence in all stages and loving that and accepting it's not where we were as bad. We get that so much time, like, oh my gosh, it was horrible. I don't want to be there. Those experiences. We demonize it.
Right. But without that, who are we?
Yeah, those are the lessons that we said, okay, this is what I want to experience. This is what I want to become. Well, the path is not always cupcakes and rainbows. Like we got to have some obstacles and growing pains. Labors of love is what I like to call them. Like you've got to feel that discomfort and step out of that familiar zone to be able to stretch. And then we expand. And then we can stretch a little more and we can expand here. And I think that's also a lesson that we forget is like when we expand, we're not taking somebody else's space. The space was always ours. That is also a mental program that being big and bright and beautiful the way we were designed is quote unquote wrong. No, we just get to choose to say, okay, this space is already mine and your space is already yours. But for some reason, I keep pulling myself in. I keep constricting. I keep dimming my light. And the whole point is I take up my space, you take up your space, and then we'll look at we actually finish the masterpiece. If we all decide to fill up our own puzzle piece and you look and it's a beautiful creation, it's a journey to get there. And that's okay.
And that's okay.
Because if you look at a puzzle piece, like the intricacies of it, like you have to have, okay, this line here. Okay, now this color dot over here. If we rushed it, would just be a plain white piece or whatever. Like there's so much in detail that gets to walk through, and that's the journey we walk through. If we rush the journey, the detail is not in our puzzle piece the way it needs to be.
And ultimately, what you just said to me is perspective.
Yes.
It's, are we looking from the top of the mountain down, or are we looking from the valley up? It's perspective. Can both sides be beautiful? Yet one is tougher to get to the top. And it may even be tough to get to the valley. But the prize is when you're there, whether you're on top of the mountain viewing the whole scenery, or whether you're at the bottom looking up at the vast beauty of the mountain itself. And some of that challenge for me is not thinking that I have to climb that whole mountain in one engulfed moment. It's but to focus on one rock at a time. And that's been my challenge. Okay, and you know what? This is a huge mountain, but there's one little piece right here. Okay, that doesn't taste good, or that doesn't feel good, or whatever. Okay, now I can move to the next piece. But each piece, each step, each movement, each place takes me closer to where I'm going, to the direction that I desire to be in. So then it's perspective. Even if I'm looking back on my life, it's perspective.
Absolutely. And that's it. That's the whole point, is as soon as you get that perspective and realize everything in life is working for you, it's to help you grow and expand. So next time you're in the valley, if you truly can embody that statement and truly trust that statement, the next time you're in the valley in those lower points, you can almost laugh and go, okay, I see you, we're here, but guess what? There's only up from here. Like, it's okay. I can sit, I can feel, I can experience, because now I'm expanding my spectrum. If the valleys aren't low, you can only go as high as the low. And so if I don't feel the low spectrum, I can't truly appreciate the high, and vice versa. Like, that's the beauty of the spectrum. And every time I stretch my capacity, every time I add more experience, there's more quality of life that I'm creating.
And each space is not a forever journey. I mean, just like life, and going back to Queen Bee, I started out in life being 0 years old. And then you go from that to 10 years old and on up. And I guess I'm saying that because in this life, in this journey, wherever we are, it's still that upward moving, forward moving process. And just because I may be here at this moment, I can go ahead and look and imagine the next moment, because I'm not going to be in this moment again. Because when this moment is gone, this moment is gone. I need to learn the experiences and take whatever it is I need to take with me. But I'm now moving to the next part, the next space.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you don't learn what's in here, then you don't have the tool set for the next space either.
You don't have the tools.
And then it may seem more challenging. Not that you can't do it, but if you're sitting here, we talked about this too. Okay, so we're sitting here and we're supposed to dig a hole. Well, I got here, but I don't have my shovel. Okay, so if I'm looking from the perspective of, okay, this is gonna suck, I've got to dig this big hole. I only have my hands. Okay, I got to start digging. But when you allow yourself to have the spectrum, or like the perspective, and you start looking around and seeing the different perspectives, you realize there's an excavator right next to you. But you're so worried about, oh, I got here and I don't have the shovel. I don't have what I need. And if you're focused on that, you're not looking at the excavator, and you're sitting here trying to dig and making it harder for yourself when you have the resources right at your fingertips.
Everything you
the
need.
book.
And it's usually more than we need, more than we think we need anyway.
Absolutely.
Greater than our imagination can even take us. And that's the shero's journey.
Absolutely. So much beautiful knowledge and wisdom and medicine coming through here. I absolutely love it. What is one last thing you want to leave the listeners with before we wrap it up today?
I think as I talk through both of these books and both of these experiences, and recognizing that in the beginning, I started to hear God speak to me, and I started to recognize that that I wasn't alone in the process, and there was something there with me, and I thought was greater than me. And I was looking on the outside, looking for something to be with me, to help me. And as I started with Queen Bee, the reality is there's something in me, within me, and recognizing that I'm not alone because of what's in me, what's with me. And just like I heard that voice that I projected came from out of me, that voice technically came from in me. And when I realize, and when I get afraid or fearful of moving or doing something, to recognize that my creator is in me, that there's God in me. I'm not alone. I'm not making these decisions alone. I'm not lonely, lost, or hopeless in whatever it is. And with that, I'm hopeful.
Absolutely.
With that, I'm hopeful, and I can move forward. So I'd say, yes, life is a journey. It is not a destination, but it's definitely not something that we have to take alone, because not only is the creator within us, we are collectively here together and connecting with our tribe and finding who we are and who we're supposed to be with and what we're supposed to do in that process.
Absolutely. A beautiful journey if we embrace it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I love it.
It's going to be a journey whether we embrace it or not. So let's just try not enjoy it. Yes. Embrace it.
Bring the fun.
Bring the fun so that you can have freedom in it.
Yes, exactly. It brings right back, perfect way to loop it in. It brings us right back to the beginning where it's the food, fun, fashion, freedom.
That's it.
Thank you so much for being with us today, Glenda.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Soul Revolution Tribe and being part of our soul family. If anything in this episode resonated with you, please subscribe, leave a review, and share your takeaways. You can find me on IG at Grow with Jackie B or on YouTube at Soul Revolution Tribe. I will see you next week for more soul conversations and medicine. Bye for now, and see you back soon.